Senator, we are 1 week out from President Trump's 4th of July deadline. I'd like to know what are your feelings on how things are going with the big, beautiful bill? And is there anything you're looking out for in particular when it comes to the crafting of it?
So there are probably 500 different elements of this bill that we've worked on for the last 6 months. There's been a lot of time for it to get out in public. When the House passed it months ago, we've had all the different sections out in public for the last 2 weeks for people to be able to review it. Now we're trying to be able to go through and edit it. There are a lot of areas of common agreement. We can't allow tax rates to go up next year. Right now, tax rates are set to go up on every single Oklahoman January the 1st of next year just because the current tax rates expire. First things first, we can't allow that to expire and have tax rates jump up on everything. We've got to also deal with some of the other big issues, like our federal debt. So we're looking for long-term ways. How do we slow down our spending? It's still an increase, but decreasing the increase, if I can say it that way, so that we start catching up on our debt and deficit. That's very important to us, not to hurt the economy, but also to be able to slow down our spending dramatically. And then the third area is really targeting areas of national defense, improving our air traffic control system, which everyone knows that we need, and also securing our border long term, adding the additional funding that's going to be needed, no matter who's president in the days ahead, to be able to make sure that we're securing our border. So there are several key areas where we've got common agreement. Everyone's focused on the areas where we have disagreement. I understand that. Those are the details you work out at the very end. We're still trying to work that out, but there is broad agreement in this big, beautiful bill so far.
What would make you a hard no? Obviously, some senators are like, I want this on Medicaid or I want this on the green energy credits. What would make you a hard no on this bill?
Yeah, so there are people that are looking at it saying it doesn't reduce deficit enough. Quite frankly, I've always been a person to say if you can't get everything, you shouldn't just stop and do nothing. You should at least do as much as you possibly can. I'd love to be able to solve the deficit in one vote. We've not been able to do that ever as a country. So this is a chipping away at it. It's a very significant, in fact, it's the largest deficit increase we've ever had in the history of the country, but we also have the largest deficit we've ever had. And so for me, the primary areas are we really taking down deficit areas? I understand fully the Washington, D.C. numbers game that's up here as people look at it and say, if only you raise taxes by $4 trillion, this would be better. I don't agree. I think that hurts the economy, and I think that long-term slows down the growth of our country. So I want to be able to reduce the deficit. That's one of the biggest issues for me.
Is July 4th doable, or are you, I mean, it's Washington, anything can happen, but is the president's July 4th deadline doable?
It is doable. There's an old DC joke that says nothing moves fast in the Senate until it does. We have been working on this issue for months, and we're very close. There are 2 or 3 issues that we still got to be resolve the text on and where we're going. If we can get those things resolved in the next 24 hours, we get on to voting. It'll take us days in the voting process, lots of amendments that we'll work through. It'll all be in public, so we get a chance to be able to go through it. And then we'll send it to the House and let them pick it up and pass it from there.
My last question on the big beautiful bill. You are from a Medicaid expansion state. I'm wondering, the big concern I've heard from state lawmakers is Donald Trump could sign this thing and automatically we got to go into special session and start readjusting our budget. Do you anticipate any of that, or are a lot of these changes going to be phased in?
Yeah, one of the things I'm actually pushing for on the Medicaid changes is phased in changes to give several years for states to be able to make the transition. We all know with the Affordable Care Act, when that was passed under President Obama, they gave 90% federal funding to healthy adults and gave 60% funding to disabled children. We've always thought that was a foolish way to be able to design that the greater incentive should be for disabled children, pregnant moms, those who are in poverty, not healthy adults, as the Affordable Care Act set that up. So I've spoken to our legislature about this months ago and said, hey, at some point we're going to have to start making some adjustments on this to figure out how to do this. But the key is we've got to make sure that there's enough time to be able to implement that. We're going to put a work requirement into Medicaid for healthy adults. For those folks that are adults that have no children, that are healthy, we believe there should be a work requirement for Medicaid, just like it is for all the other social safety net programs. You can't get food stamps, what's called SNAP. You can't get that without having a work requirement on it, but you can if you're a healthy adult with no children. You can get those benefits in Medicaid. We're going to try to align the food stamp benefits and also the Medicaid benefits to make sure the same requirements are there. That's going to take some time for the state to implement because the state actually has to implement that portion. So time is important, and that's one of the key areas I'm pushing for.
I would like to talk about Iran for just a little bit.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about last weekend's strikes now that we're just a few days out? Do you think they were successful? And are we turning the page on relations with Iran?
Yeah, I hope that long term we can turn the page with our relationships with Iran, because right now our problem is not with the Iranian people, it's with the Iranian regime. They're terrorizing their own people as a dictatorial leadership that they are on their own people. They're also the state's largest, the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. They fund Hamas, they fund Hezbollah, they fund the Shia militants in Iraq, they fund the Houthis. They are the primary problem in the region. And I would love to see better relationships with Iran, but that's going to take probably different leaders that are there. The people of Iran are going to have to make decisions on the direction they're going to be able to go for the future. As for the president's strike on the nuclear facilities there, I can't congratulate enough the men and women of our military for the precision strike that they carried out, the professionalism that they carried it out with. It was a very significant moment. We had a war for 12 days as Israel is trying to be able to push back on their nuclear ambitions. The United States was able to step in, do a single set of strikes, and to be able to end that war and to be able to stop the bloodshed, but also to be able to dramatically change the direction of all of the conversations for the future. This is a regime that threatens America every single day with chance of death to America. They mean it when they say it, and for them to have a nuclear weapon gives them the capability to be able to carry that out. So we have ended that threat, but we've also changed the trajectory of where we are in negotiations long term with that regime.
I, I'm so glad you brought up the chance death to America. That is my next question. Like for most of your life, for all of my life, this regime has not liked us at all. I'm having a hard time processing that we could bomb them, they could fling a few missiles, and we're calling it good. It feels weird. Are we good? It, I imagine like I'm expecting another attack or a different kind of retaliation other than what they've done.
We always should be ready. This is a terrorist regime that they have had their specialty of carrying out acts of terror against civilians. So it is important for us to stay vigilant on this. But we also remember the Iranian regime for decades now has been attacking America. In just the straits in that area around Yemen, they've attacked us 174 times onto American warships just in the last 2 years. So they continue to attack us. On Memorial Day, I was in Beirut this past Memorial Day, and I stopped and paused at the memorial there where in 1983, Iranian-backed Hezbollah folks attacked us in our Marine barracks and killed 241 Marines in 1983. This has been a long-term issue for the Iranian regime. They hate America. They hate our values. These are folks that want to kill my family. So we do take it very, very seriously. But in the Middle East, power speaks. And when President Trump actually carries out that kind of strike with that kind of force, it backs up the regime to say, we don't need to fool with the United States of America. They should be very, very careful before they take any step to respond to us of any significance on it, because the United States has the ability to be able to push into Iran in a way that regime would not want.
So let me ask you this final question, and I think this is a uniquely Oklahoma James Lankford foreign policy question with your church
Okay.
experience and
Yeah.
your foreign policy experience. A lot of Oklahomans want to visit the Holy Land at some point in their life. They cherish what is there. I think it's on some of my family's bucket list as well. When is it safe to go back and could there? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but
Right.
I mean, is an Iranian proxy waiting for me in Israel when I go see like the Via Dolorosa or something like that? When is it safe to go to Israel, if ever again after this?
Interestingly enough, I've been in Israel twice in the last year and a half. I've been there during this time of war that people said, don't go to Israel. Two different times I've been there for diplomatic missions to be able to meet with the Prime Minister Netanyahu, to be able to meet with their foreign minister and economic ministers, to be able to get time to be able to visit some of the places that we need to be aware of the threats. So I've been in the region. They just opened up commercial airspace in the last 48 hours back in Israel. Literally, the flights were all full as folks are flying into Israel right now. I actually spoke to someone yesterday that said they have a trip with their church planned and they're in preparation to be able to go. Is it okay to go? I gave them the nod and said that there's a significant amount of work that's happening right now. Now, Israel is always under threat. There's never been a time since 1948 that Israel has not faced a threat. But I also know millions of people have visited Israel since 1948, and they have been able to enjoy time in the Holy Land and to be able to visit and tour those significant sites. So Israel is very attentive about its security, but it's a place that always faces threats.